Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening all at the same time, wherever you are in the world, Tottenham Hotspur fans and any fans watching this content, really. Look, Tottenham Hotspur. So there has been some news. Told you yesterday that I'm not going to just make videos for video's sake, but I wanted to discuss with everyone this morning. For me, whether or not Tottenham Hotspur can win the Europa League. Now, this is off the back, of course, of the squad being announced yesterday. I've seen a lot of comments about this. A lot of people saying, what is he doing? Other people saying it's very sensible, very smart. So I thought we'd have a little look at it. We break it down. We'll see who's been omitted from the squad. How the homegrown rules affected Tottenham in a big way. Was it poor planning from the club? Should we have done better in the window to cope with this? All of these different questions. But let's have a look at it. We'll also have a look at our history in Europe, and not every single European season, but it is about time we won a European trophy, isn't it? I'm not sitting here saying, we'll get into this in a minute. I'm not sitting here saying we will win this, but it's about time we won a trophy, right? It's about time, whether that's a Europa League, unless that's the Europa League, whether that's a League Cup, FA Cup, we've got to win something at some point, because 16 years is slowly going to turn into 17 years and 18 if we're not careful. So what can we do to rectify that and win a trophy? Well, look, let's start by looking at the squad that was announced yesterday. And I always find it quite interesting when you look at a squad, it gives you a real indication as to what players the manager rates, what players are there purely because of their nationality, and it might give you an indication as to who's going to be peed off. Let's be brutally honest. There will be players that are still at Tottenham that will be really peed off with this announcement. So let's have a look, shall we? If we look at the squad, let me just make sure that you can all see that. Hopefully everyone can see that. And this is the official UEFA website. So I haven't made this up. This is real. This is official. I think the telling thing for me when you look at this straight away is 4 goalkeepers. Now, bearing in mind, this squad is for the preliminary stages only. This is for the group stages. So after the group stages, this squad can be tweaked and amended as each club sees fit. However, this is for the first 8 games. These are the 8 games that, obviously, the long, convoluted way they're doing this competition now. This is for the 8 games that will determine whether or not you make the knockout stages of this competition, which Spurs bloody well should do, right? We'll get to that a bit later. So when you look at this, first of all, I think some of the big shock for a lot of people was 4 goalkeepers. Spurs have taken 4 goalkeepers. Now, this is a really interesting selection theory. There's a number of ways you can look at this. Vicario, we don't need to speak about. Vicario's your number 1. He's going to go. He's going to go. He's your number 1. Let's be brutally honest. He should start every Europa League game. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Whiteman and Austin, who are nowhere to be seen for Premier League match day squads, are both going. Now, we know why they're both going. Unless anyone tells me differently, they are both going because, unfortunately, they are the only 2 club-trained players at the football club. So, as we all know, the homegrown criteria from UEFA splits into 2. Now, just to set the rules, sorry, I should have done this just now. Just to set the rules, anyone can have a 25-man squad going into the UEFA Cup. Someone might tell me if I'm wrong here, but this is my understanding. Anyone can have a squad of 25 players. However, 8 of that 25 must be homegrown. Now, if you want to have the 25, 4 of that 8 must be club trained. Okay. Now, Spurs don't have 4 club trained players at the club. We have 2, which is Austin and Whiteman. So what that means is we still need to have 8 homegrown players, but 6 of our homegrown players weren't club trained at Tottenham Hotspur. That means that for every player you don't have that's club trained, i.e. we have 2, meaning the 3rd and 4th are missing, that means the 3rd and the 4th get knocked from the 25-man selection, making it 24 players and finally 23 players. And this is where Skip probably would have helped, but that's a different story. He's gone. Now, if I've got all of that right, someone in the chat probably right now screaming and whacking their keyboard saying, Savvy, you've messed that up. I believe that's correct. But this is where the conundrum comes in. So Austin and Whiteman, I get it. I get why they're there. My first question is, did we need 4 goalkeepers for 8 games? What are the chances that from those 8 games, right, from those 8 games, you're going to need 4 different goalkeepers? Why did he not take Vicario, Austin and Whiteman and leave out Forster? I'm just asking a question. Now, people will go, well, what's wrong with taking 4 keepers? Well, 4 keepers means you've got less defenders going. And we'll look at that in a minute. So at the moment, Forster, Austin, Whiteman. Now, Forster is one of 8 homegrown players in the squad, but he is at the expense of Jed Spence. Expense and Spence in the same sentence. I didn't think that through. He is at the expense of Jed Spence. Done it again. Now, let's move on and look at this. So straight away, this tells me a number of things. First of all, he does not trust Austin and Whiteman. Let's be honest. Straight away on the bench, we saw when Forster was fit, Forster is back in. And Forster is in, even though you've got 2 other goalkeepers to back up Vicario. This leads me to believe that he does not rate Austin or Whiteman at all. Now, guys, girls, in the chat, let me know if you disagree with that. But for me, I think if you trust them, you leave out Forster and you take an extra defensive body. Now, why do I talk about the extra defensive body? Let's look at our defenders, shall we? Let's see if I can get them all in the screen. There they are. So if we look at the defenders, Spurs have got 6 defenders. 6 defenders. Now, I know what people will say. They're going to straight away go, oh, but Archie Gray can play right back. And listen, we'll take that into account in a minute. But on the cold face of things, Tottenham Hotspur have taken 6 defenders. So only 2 more defenders than goalkeepers. That means there's not really a lot of option here to rotate because he's not taken Serge Reguilon and he's not taken Jed Spence. And they are the 2 senior pros that are missing out. Now, you've got to hope at this stage that we don't get similar injuries to last season. Because if at any point we are missing Udogie, Van der Ven, Romero all at the same time, it leaves you very, very light at the back. It means that we're now starting to shuffle midfielders into defence. Or the other thing we can do is put in some of the younger players that don't need to be registered. God knows when football became this difficult, but there are younger players at the club that don't need to be registered to play in the Europa League. So I'm talking about the likes of Mikey Moore. I'm talking about the likes of Dorrington, these players. So this is where somebody like a Dorrington could become very, very handy for Tottenham Hotspur. Because you get a couple of centre-back injuries, and we are not blessed in that area anyway in terms of depth. If you look at that, you've got Dragoshin, Romero and Van der Ven. After that, you've got, is Davis a left back? Is he a centre back? I'm not sure. No one knows anymore. By trade, I believe he's a left back that's been shuffled into centre back more as he's got older. And then after that, you've got purely only 2 fullbacks in this squad that are recognised fullbacks in terms of Pedro Porro and Destiny Udogie. So what this looks like to me is that essentially our best back 4 will probably play most of the time. Now, you might see Ben Davis and Dragoshin come in if everyone is fully fit. And you might see, for example, you might see Porro, Van der Ven and Davis and Dragoshin might come in for Romero and Udogie for a game. But it leaves you quite light in numbers. There's not a lot of depth there. So again, quite risky, but because of the homegrown element, we didn't take, because of the homegrown element, we didn't take Reguilon. And because he chose to take Forster to make 4 keepers, we've not taken Jed Spence. Now, I'm not saying Jed Spence is great. I don't particularly rate Jed Spence. I think there's a reason why he's had so many different clubs and no managers trust him. There's a reason, I think, why the manager has left him out of this squad. I think there was a lot of hype about him during pre-season. but I'm not sure that hype was justified. I think it was just everyone getting a little bit carried away because he ran forward. But the manager clearly can't rate him. Before everyone has to go at me that I don't rate him, the manager clearly can't rate him if he's picking 4 goalkeepers and leaving Jed Spence behind. Now, what does this do for Jed Spence? If I'm Jed Spence right now, I am knocking on the manager's door and going, Gaffer, I'm not going to get a game in the Premier League. You're now not taking me on the Europa League. What is going on? Why wasn't I sold? Why wasn't I on loan? Can I please go to Turkey? That is what I would be asking right now. Can I go to Turkey? Let me know your thoughts on that, because there's no way Jed Spence can be happy with this decision. I expect that Reguilon will leave and go to Turkey in the next couple of days. Just my feeling, but we will see. So look, that's the defensive area, and this is where Dorrington could play a big part once he comes back from his injury. I'm not sure how long his injury is for, but again, maybe some of the other young defenders might have to step in here. But again, it's quite threadbare. It's quite threadbare. Now, if we move forward to the midfield, I think midfield, look, I'm not going to put Son in that midfield area, by the way, but they have, so whatever. But I don't really think there's too much to say here about the midfield. I don't see that anyone's been omitted. It is exactly what we thought it would be, right? In terms of central midfielders, you've got Basuma, you've got Gray, Bergvall, Sarr and Bentancur. And then in terms of wide players, you've got Odegaard, Brennan Johnson and Son. And then you've got Kulusevski and Maddison as more of your attacking midfield players. So I don't really think there's too much to talk about there. I don't think there's anything that shocked anyone there. I mean, let me know if you disagree, but I can't see anything there really worthy of talking about, if we're going to be honest. And to be honest, same with the forwards. If we look at those forward players there, Richarlison, Timo Werner, Solanke, some would go in there as well. And there isn't really anything to write home about there. So in essence, that's our squad. And the homegrown players that we've got in our squad will be Dominic Solanke, as you can see there. That's one. Brennan Johnson, Archie Gray, James Maddison, Ben Davies for 5, and then Whiteman, Austin and Forster to make 8. So of our 8 homegrown, 3 are goalkeepers, all of which for me shouldn't really be at Tottenham. And it goes to show that Austin and Whiteman, they're still at Spurs, but it's starting to look like a bit of a wasted career. Apologies if I've just gone a little bit darker. One of my lights did just run out of juice. So apologies for that. But that's our squad. Let me know your thoughts. Questions from that would be this. Would you have taken Forster? Would you have taken Spence instead and had more defensive cover? Do you think we'll be okay in defence? Is it a case of, well, if Porro needs a rest, that Archie Gray will go to right back? Is it that Dorrington could come in and get minutes? Is it that we've got a lot of trust in Davis to cover both the left back and the centre half? The same with Van der Ven. Let me know your thoughts on that. Really interested to hear what that looks like. Now, something that I wanted to move on to was our matches. And look, I truly believe that Tottenham Hotspur should get through the group stage. I don't see that we shouldn't. But I err on the side of caution. Why do I err on the side of caution? Well, it's quite simple, okay? It's quite simple, isn't it? I err on the side of caution because I'm a Tottenham fan, because we've been here, we've seen it, and we've done it before. So many times over the years, you hear things like, oh, it's a rubbish group. Oh, we'll fly through that. I hear arrogance all the time. Arrogance from fans. There's no one that worries us in that tournament. No one that worries us. We've heard this before under Jose. We've heard this before under Conte. We've heard this before under Yo, under Poch, under Hoddle, under you name it, we've heard it. And then what happens? We get humbled. So again, that's why I'm humble as a Spurs fan. On paper, should we have a chance of winning it? I don't know. The way that we're sitting and talking about other fans, other clubs saying, oh, there shouldn't really be anyone that worries us. Other clubs might be thinking the same thing. They'll be looking at our form for the last 10 months and saying, well, they don't really beat the good teams, so why are we worried about them? But of course, what are cup competitions about? They're about a number of factors. They're about luck of the draw. Not just in the group stages, but once you get through to the knockout stages, the luck of the draw. Are you at home first or away first? Makes a huge difference, doesn't it? Makes a huge difference. There's a difference between losing the first leg 1-0 away and then coming back the second leg and having the home crowd. The difference between that and winning the first leg 1-0 at home and then going away with a hostile crowd somewhere across Europe, it's a huge difference. So you're looking at the luck of the draw. You're looking at injuries, suspensions, team selection, attitude. It comes down to a number of different factors. So, you know me, I'm never one of these arrogant fans that says, oh, we're 100% going to win that, because a lot of factors have to be taken into account. Do I believe we should get through the group? I do. I do believe we should. I think there's enough games there where we should be winning. And let's call it for what it is, people. If we don't win this, if we don't come out of this group with the draw we've been given, serious questions have to be asked, because this group has been kind to Tottenham, I think. I think there's a tricky period in there, but I think there's enough games we should be winning. Let's look at them. Tottenham v Karabakh. With all the will in the world, these are games that you should rock up at home, 2-3-0, maybe a 4, 3 points, move on. I don't want to hear excuses, oh, but this, but that plays in. These are teams we should be beating. Now, Ferencváros, I watched these the other night, actually. I was watching it on my Bet365 app, and they struggled to beat the team they were playing, who were lower ranked than them. They played some nice stuff, but again, really difficult to tell because of the quality of the opposition they were playing against. Listen, away games can be tricky, but again, if there's anything about us, if we are this team that people want to say arrogantly, we are going to win this competition, there's no one that worries us, we should be rocking up to Ferencváros and winning. Then if we look at the next two you can see there, AZ Alkmaar. Again, AZ Alkmaar, not a bad football team, but at home, under the lights, Thursday night, home advantage. We should be putting teams like this to the sword. So for me, the first 3 games should be 3 wins. They should be. Let me know your thoughts. Maybe you think differently. Not saying they're all going to be plain sailing, but they should be 3 wins. And the reason they should be 3 wins is because of this next 3 games. Let me see if I can get them all in at once. There you go. Galatasaray away will not be an easy game. I'm not saying we can't win it, but Galatasaray in Europe, their crowd is very, very spicy, should we say. Their crowd is toxic. It is a cauldron of noise and hate. And it will be a tricky place to go. And to follow that up then with Roma at home, Roma haven't really kicked off this season as well. I think they've been a little bit like us, to be honest. I don't think they've really got going this season, but they have brought in some good players and they have got a good squad. So that game, I think that for me is the most intriguing game of this group. I'm really looking forward to Tottenham v Roma. I think that's going to be a good group. I think Roma have got some really good footballers. But again, at the time, who will Tottenham have fit? Who will Roma have fit? What form are both clubs in? Right? So much goes into it. I'm really looking forward to that. And then Tottenham away at Rangers. Now, again, on paper, you look at Rangers and you go, oh my God, we should be smashing them. But Rangers, European night, Ibrox, at home, raucous crowd. They'll make it toxic for the opposition. That's going to be a tough game. So of the 8 games, that 3-game period between, between the 7th of November and the 12th of December, that 28 days or so there is going to be really telling for Tottenham Hotspur. Those 3 games there. Then you look at our last 2 games, and again, Hoffenheim, I think, are going to be a tricky opposition. Again, away. That one, draw. For me, I think, listen, I'm not saying we can't win that. We should be, but you'd probably take a draw. And at home to Elfsborg, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm an expert. But if you can't beat Elfsborg at home, there are issues. So for me, I think there's definitely enough there to see us go through. I would suggest that there's probably 5 wins, 2 draws and a defeat in there. Maybe 5 wins, a draw and 2 defeats, depending on how we get on away. But there should definitely be enough to see us through that group. So I really am optimistic that we're going to get through that group. And then the last thing I wanted to show here was why Tottenham need to have a good European Cup run. And let me just see if that's come up. Let's see if that's come up. Yeah, it has indeed. Let me just make that a bit bigger. Boom, boom, boom. There we go. This here is... This is the 5 European finals that Tottenham Hotspur have been to in their lifetime. So as you can see, not a bad record. 3 wins, 2 defeats. So what's that, 60%? 60% win rate in finals. The concerning thing, obviously, is going to be that since 1984, which is what, 30 years ago? No, that's completely bad maths, Richard. That is what, 38 years ago? 40 years ago. So in those 39, 40 years, Tottenham have only reached 1 European final, which of course was the Champions League final under Pochettino back in 2019, which ended up being a real busted flush, really. We didn't really get going. But nonetheless, great cup run. A lot of fans really still hold on to that. Fair play to them. I don't. I feel like it was a long time ago now. But you look before, there was one in the 63 when we beat Atletico Madrid to win the Cup Winners' Cup. 72 when we won the UEFA Cup, which is the old, for anyone who's a bit younger, the UEFA Cup is the old version of what the Europa League is. Then the defeat in 74 to Feyenoord. Then the win in 84 to Anderlecht. And then you've got the Liverpool game. It's about time Tottenham Hotspur won a competition. Can we win it? I don't know. As I said before, there's a lot of factors that go into it. I'm looking at Ange's European record. It's not the best. Our European record lately isn't the best. But stranger things have happened. And Spurs will look at the group and think, yeah, we're going to go through. And from there, it's the luck of the draw. What you don't want to do is get one of the top-seeded teams in the first knockout stage and you're playing them away in the second leg, and before you know it, it's over. So what you want is a nice draw. You want a kind draw. But who knows? We'll see. So I'd love to know, as I leave the video there, what are all of your thoughts on the Europa League group? Can Spurs go on to win it? Who are going to be the toughest teams that we have to face? For me, this is really important for Ange as well. This is really important for Ange. He says he wants to take tournaments seriously. So let's see it. Let's take this seriously. Let's go for it. There will be fans who are saying, no. I don't want to see the senior players. I want to see the kids in Europe. So we'll see. You let me know your thoughts. Much love. I don't think I've got anything over the weekend unless anything happens in the world of Tottenham. So I'll be back next week. Enjoy the international football if that's what you're into. And as always, come on, you Spurs. Much love. Take care. Please like, please subscribe. Thank you very much and enjoy your Fridays. Bye-bye.